Hey guys, so chapter 1014 of One Piece just came out, and this has the potential to be the most death-heavy chapter of One Piece I think ever, um, or at least in the canon, or in the present day of One Piece, I guess, because maybe flashbacks, but like Robin's flashback, obviously we saw an entire boat get destroyed, but if the three characters that seem to have died truly have just died, um, then it may be probably the most death-heavy chapter we have seen thus far. But that is at the end, and I like to go in chronological order with these reviews, so we will get to that um, later in the video. But first off, we start pretty much right where we left off, with Luffy's failed attempt number 2 or number 3. Depending on if you count that one knockout from Three Worlds Ragnarok to be a defeat. Well, this attempt has also ended in a failure. And in this case, again, like I said, pretty much right where we left off, Luffy's still falling from the floating island of Onigashima. And Kaido kind of smack talks him a bit. He says, "Oh, your technique leaves a lot to be desired, even if you learned how to coat yourself in color of conquerors." And he says, "What was that called again? Gomu Gomu no," and kind of laughs it off. So he kind of being a little bit savage there, really hitting it with the smack talk. But what is really interesting about this is that right before we see Luffy hit the water, and he does hit the water, and proceed to start drowning, is that Kaido says, "It seems like you couldn't be Joy Boy either," which raises some questions. Namely, how did Kaido learn about Joy Boy, and how much does he know about him? It possibly could be quite as simple as he knows that Joy Boy, like, because Odin claimed that Joy Boy would be the one to take down Kaido in like 20 years, and that's why they had to open the borders. I think he said that during his execution, and it's possible that Kaido just overheard that, and that's literally all he knows about Joy Boy. Or alternatively, it is possible that he knows a lot more than he lets on. Obviously, he was on Rox's crew. I feel like that would be a prime suspect for a lot of information on Joy Boy. I don't really know, because I don't know if Kaido has any means to read poneglyphs on his crew. Obviously, Big Mom had the potential for Pudding to read poneglyphs, but he did not have that quite yet, because she hadn't awakened her third eye or whatever. But as far as we've seen from Kaido, he doesn't have any way to actually read the poneglyphs, so I doubt he got it from those. So yeah, I think just either he overheard what Odin was saying during his execution, or probably something from Rox is how he got this knowledge of Joy Boy. I don't know. I'm assuming when we get Kaido's flashback, and I'm pretty confident that we'll get a flashback with Kaido, it'll probably involve Rox in some capacity. And that might be where we get some level of information about Joy Boy, or get that exchange of how he learned it. But in any case, he just kind of casually name drops Joy Boy, which, raised a lot of questions, but nothing more than that, really. But what he does do is contact Bao Huang, who has now located Momonosuke, using the Marys. And he asks Bao Huang to broadcast the fact that he had defeated Luffy to the entire, battle happening on Onigashima. Which, just to skip ahead quite a bit, there is like a nice double-page spread where we see, we got around to all the different fights going on, and I'll see the reactions to it. And, as expected, most if not all the Straw Hats immediately don't believe it. Especially Zoro and Sanji, since they had that exchange like last chapter, or maybe it was 2 chapters ago. No, it was definitely last chapter, or was it? Now I'm doubting myself. It was either last chapter or 2 chapters ago, where they had that exchange where, yeah, Luffy's not gonna lose. But yeah, we also see Also, something interesting, and we see Jinbei and Who's fight briefly, and Who has gone back into his human form. Um, but other than that, yeah, just kind of a brief check-in on the situations. We see a close-up of Luffy, who is, yes, in the water. It's not, it's definitely not up for debate that he is drowning right now. Um, but yeah, so to go back to where he was before, we get to see that. Ooh, first we get the Momonosuke scene. A brief Momonosuke scene before we cut back to him at the end of the chapter again, where he was reading Oden's journal, like the last time we saw him, and he says that it seems like I cannot afford to die. So something in the journal definitely indicates that the Kozuki, or someone of the Kozuki, is definitely vital for whatever future that Oden has foretold in his little journal there. Also interesting to see, because I was under the impression that he didn't actually include what he saw at Laugh Tale, based on how it's said. Like we got kind of an excerpt from his journal during the flashback, where he said we learned all the secrets of this world, and he listed off the secrets, but it didn't actually go into detail. But it's possible that they did get into a bit more detail than it maybe was letting on, and something about that has set off Momonosuke a bit. But also Momonosuke gets one of his headaches, obviously hearing the voice of a loud thing, much like he did on Zoe, and that obviously brings up the possibility of maybe Zunisha coming to Wano, or possibly the Sea Kings. Although I doubt it's the Sea Kings, because obviously if Momonosuke could interact with the Sea Kings, then that might take away from. Well, I guess it could be like similar to Luffy, where he can hear them but can't actually interact with them. But I was thinking like maybe similar to how obviously I don't think it would be very good if he could do it similar to how he did with Zanisha, where he could actually control the Sea Kings, because that would kind of be then he would just be another Poseidon, which obviously it wouldn't be good for the story, if there's just a second Poseidon that, despite there only supposed to be one, and it's the prophesized mermaid princess or whatever. But yeah, this immediately makes me think that Zunisha has shown up, and possibly that Momonosuke will control Zunisha to catch the flying island of Onigashima. That's what I immediately think of, but maybe not. If it's not Zoe and not the Sea Kings, it'd be interesting to see who it is. But I think personally for me, Zunisha is probably the the top possibility. But anyway, we get back to Chopper's fight with Queen, and honestly, I thought that was just going to be like a short, Chopper gets an attack off on Queen, and then someone else takes over, because I didn't think Chopper would be able to hold his own against Queen for an extended period of time. And it looks like we cut to the fight where Chopper's like suplexing or throwing Queen over his shoulder in Monster Point. But he remarks on the fact that he's not doing any, or Queen says basically that he's not actually doing any damage, and Chopper remarks on the fact that he's not doing any damage, and he's running out of time on his Monster Point. So it seems unlikely that Chopper is actually going to be the one to beat Queen here, just that he's kind of holding him off at the moment. And also Peros here, as if Chopper fighting Queen wasn't impressive enough, he's also getting, we see a bunch of arrows sticking out his back, and we see that they're actually candy arrows spawned by Perospero, who's kind of just launching him into the crowd as Chopper is fighting Queen. So he's got kind of his plate full at the moment. Pretty impressive that Chopper's more or less taking on Queen and Perospero at the same time. Do I think he could beat Queen? Probably not. Um, maybe possibly getting an awakening of armament hockey. That's what I think of, because he's saying, I can't, I don't have enough power to actually, substantially damage Queen as it is right now. Um, and we know, like, Monster Point is already the awakening of his Devil Fruit. I mean, that's not been confirmed, I don't think, but from everything we know about Zoan awakenings, it is almost like 95% guaranteed that Monster Point is the awakening of Chopper's Fruit. Um, which, obviously means that he can't really get any major power ups in the fruit department. So the only natural, extension would be hockey. And since, this arc, more so than any other arc, has been about hockey, with both the development of advanced armament hockey and a lot of Conqueror's hockey stuff happening in the past few chapters. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the arc where we see a lot of the Straw Hats start to develop hockey in their own. At the very least, I'd be disappointed if we don't get um, Usopp like fully realizing his observation hockey here. Obviously, he awakened it during Dressrosa, but we haven't seen him use it since. We don't even know if he knows it was observation hockey at the time. So at the very least, I'd like to see him actually use it. But I'd like to see some other Straw Hats awaken some hockey too here. Um, and this is a personal bias, but I really want armament hockey for Robin. That's all I want. Armament hockey for Robin. Just give me that. I could be satisfied. I don't even care if you give observation to Usopp. Just give me armament for Robin. Yeah, but it seems to be indicating that Chopper may get a power up here, and I think the natural assumption would be that that would be some sort of hockey armament in particular, because he's talking about how he's not doing enough damage to Queen right now. But we also do get a brief flashback to an interaction he had with Caesar, which nice to see Caesar kind of coming back up in the story, because he was such a important figure, or he we were given the impression that he was such an important figure back when he was introduced. But then, he kind of wasn't anymore. He just, like, even his, like, the way he exited the story, he literally did it, like, in the background, like, being like, goodbye, you won't see me again, aren't you listening, as, the rest of them were just kind of carrying on a conversation, paying him no mind. So it's nice to see, Caesar actually having some importance in the modern story, and it seems like Chopper actually took an upgraded version of the Rumble Ball here that allowed him to stay in Monster Point for 30 minutes instead of just 3 minutes. That was developed by Caesar, but it apparently may come with some sort of risk that we haven't actually seen yet. But with that, yeah, we get the whole scene with Bao Huang announcing Luffy's defeat. Where we go back to Momonosuke. Kinemon and Kiku have now arrived on the scene with Momo and Shinobu. Momonosuke is still experiencing those headaches. When Odin bursts through the door once again, obviously we know from last time that it is a Kanjuro clone. Although honestly, for some reason I thought very briefly that this might be actually Odin this time, just because like he was saying like, oh, is something wrong, Kiku? You seem so angry, with such like an innocent smile on his face. And obviously, I know now that that's just Kanjuro, yeah, playing dumb again, just to trick him some more. But just because he said that went offline, for a moment I was just like, it would be a really Oda move to to introduce like a fake Odin earlier in the raid, just to actually bring back Odin later, and just totally catch us off guard. But no, it actually was Kanjuro again, as I assume most people would have thought. But I just thought that line just kind of made me think for a moment that it might be an actual Odin. But no, it is Kanjuro. and Kiku goes to attack the ink clone, or it's not even an ink clone this time. Kanjuro actually just changed his appearance with the paint. Um, but Kiku can't actually, strike the image of Odin. Kanjuro says like, "Oh, I took you and Izo in," and Kiku gets a little flashback to herself and Izo as a child, and kind of just stops her sword, and Kanjuro takes the opportunity to just stab right through Kiku. And Kanjuro sees this, catches Kiku while she falls, and she has a really nice line here where she actually brings up the dawn. Again, dawn being a major theme in One Piece, or at least lately in One Piece. But I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. If you're not, I'm sure there's a million videos that detail all the stuff about the dawn. So I won't go into too much detail about that right now. But Kanjuro immediately, just one swift blow takes out Kanjuro. Or did I say Kanjuro takes out Kanjuro? If I did, I meant Kinemon takes out Kanjuro. And Kanjuro's like, this is the perfect close to my role as an actor. As Kanjuro's best friend, or Kanjuro's character's best friend, was Kinemon. So yeah, we got his fitting end. I assume at the very least that Kanjuro is like 100% dead here. Because we were already given the impression that it was like a fatal wound. That he even says that again this chapter. That Kiku in their fight earlier delivered a fatal wound to Kanjuro, and he was kind of just walking around on his last legs. And he said a few chapters ago that he was going to die tonight no matter what. But he was just going to wreak as much havoc as possible before he went down. So it seems like with this attack, Kanjuro should be down and dead for good. I would be surprised if he gets back up or anything after that, but we'll have to see. It is One Piece after all. As for Kiku, that one's a bit harder. The way the way it's framed, it very much seems like Kiku has died here. Especially with the way she talks, again with like the the lingering snow is finally melting, so I can tell that the dawn is near, and whatnot. Which is very surprising, because she got her arm cut off earlier, and the thing is, when you get your arm cut off, I feel like that almost makes you safe in a way, because it seems rare that you would inflict such a large wound on a character just to inflict another large fatal wound on the character later. It seems like almost like usually inflicting something like losing a limb almost makes that character safe, because they won't actually inflict any more major wounds in the fight. But no, Kiku seems to have gone down. I feel like at the very least she's out for the raid, if not just straight up dead here. And the third character who may have died, once again, not saying for sure because it is One Piece, we have to take this with a grain of salt, is Kinemon. Because right after he cuts down Kanjuro, Kaido comes bursting in the room, looking for Momo. So Shinobu takes Momo and tries to run away, and Kinemon tries to hold off Kaido, which earns him a giant Conqueror Saki infused clubbing to the head, which is it's a very brutal scene, and we see Momo running away, or seeing this from over like Shinobu's shoulder as he's being carried away, and he shouts, Kinemon, and we get the pan out to the entire Onigashima, and we see that it is over the mainland of Wano, or it's about to be over the mainland of Wano now. So if we get any more falling off shenanigans, we can say confidently that it won't be over water anymore. But yeah. But geez, a lot of people are Kinemon was introduced to in this story as just a pair of legs, and pretty much most of his upper body in this panel is completely just missing. You can't see it because of the club, and I do genuinely wonder if that's just the angle we're seeing it at, or if he's like generally like everything like shoulders up has just been completely just eviscerated. And I would like some scabbards to die. So like if this is his death, then that's that's a pretty good way to go out. But dang, like for like you get the black streak from like the color of conquerors coming off of the club. But at first I kind of thought that was blood from Kinemon just kind of sprouting out as he got like his upper half of his body crushed, and I was like, dang, that's kind of brutal. But now it's just, I'm pretty sure it's just color of conquerors. But dang, but yeah, we see like his sword. We get a panel before that happens with like his swords crossed, deflecting his face, and the next panel, where we see him getting his like head crushed. We see the swords are broken. So at the very least, he's definitely like without a doubt out of the fight, I would say. But that definitely confirms that he took a blow to the head. And I would not be terribly surprised if this is the death of Kinemon, Kanjuro, and Kiku right here. But yeah, we'll have to see. Again, it is One Piece. Take it with a grain of salt. But I would not be surprised if that's actually the death of all three of them right there. Which is, crazy for a series that is notorious for not killing off its characters. I would be very surprised if we did genuinely just get the death of three fairly major characters in the course of one chapter, because that definitely feels like a new record for One Piece if that is the case. But we'll have to see. But with that, I don't really have anything else to say on this chapter, so I will see you guys later.